Working within an organization that is based within the journalism field not only requires a truly epic amount of hard work, but also commands the utmost respect for professionalism whenever working within the field itself. Hello, my name is Cayden Hartman, and through my composition class taught by Morgan Schulz at the University of Arkansas, I have been conducting a community-based ethnographic study on the university's yearbook organization known as the Razorback. I seek to portray the employees of the Razorback Yearbook not as gossip mongers, but as professional, honest, hardworking individuals through the lenses of my many observations on the community itself, the general day-to-day responsibilities of the staff, and what the professional world believes in relation to the collegiate press. The Razorback Yearbook works tirelessly to preserve this year's history within the storied manuscript, documenting events from all 4 seasons here on campus. Before we get too far, however, I must confess for the sake of transparency that I do currently work on staff as a photographer for the Razorback. That will in no way affect the video, essay, or the content within it. Moving on to my methodology on how I observe the information. In order to properly collect objective research, I had to view my community through a viewpoint of an outsider while still acting as though I was working for the yearbook. Heading into this ethnographic account, I, as a researcher, had to increase the number of my observations that I had typically been conducting over the school year thus far, adding a variety to the spectrum of observable events while tapping into some previously unused sources of information in order to properly represent the findings of this specific study. My observations recently took a much more varied approach than previous encounters. Rather than just observing the meetings, I chose to recognize the importance of assignments and how they portray the values that this organization holds dear. Too specifically, the values portrayed are diligence and preparation. These were presented before a few select members of the community had the opportunity to review and interview the head of school, Chancellor Joe Steinmetz. Other ways I utilized to discover information took the forms of professional secondary sources and an informal survey that consisted of a couple of sample questions that I took to a handful of classmates on their opinions of members within the yearbook staff and the idea of the institution itself. Those answers helped to portray simply a small sliver of the public opinion on the organization and its followers. However, that opinion carried enough weight to register on my radar as a call to action. To my dismay, the answers I received from my individual informal interviews were nothing less than alarming. Often the responses I were given in 4 of the 5 questionnaires were portraying the employees of the Razorback as the paparazzi or gossipers of the campus. The implications of public perception not only devalue the establishment but also the entire principle of journalistic integrity and professionalism within the field. If proved true, the yearbook would be nothing more than a common tabloid that an individual could find at their local supermarket and completely destroy any sense of the credibility the organization had. In order to properly recognize the public's perception, the reader would have to gain an insight into how this could have been imprinted onto the public's mind. Having to interpret these answers in an attempt to fully understand where they would come from led me to believe that the results were nothing but the byproduct of the unprofessional Twitter and Facebook-focused society where we live today, where anyone with a laptop and an opinion can just tweet any sort of information to the masses without adhering to traditional journalism standards, thus creating an influx of false information that only seeks to misrepresent professionals and confuse the masses. In an article by the University of London, Jane B. Singer calls into question that specific predicament. This paper suggests the fundamental challenge that online journalists pose for professional journalism in traditional media. The problem is not about money or even job security, it's about the notion of professionalism. Singer's article, entitled "Who Are These Guys?" goes on to portray print journalists' fears and a loss of professionalism due to the rise of online news outlets in our ever technologically evolving world. Tracking down this perception of professional journalism can be applied even at the collegiate yearbook level. The implications of that application, even at this level, spell disaster for yearbooks throughout America. Still, the rise of social media, and specifically Facebook, makes some wonder if the need for a yearbook is even obsolete, coming from an article entitled "The Yearbook Question" by Emilie Munson. The quote, coupled with the last one, portrays a situation where the public needs to be educated on the need for professionalism in journalism, even within a yearbook department, in order to fully understand what they accomplish and the valid information that these volumes present. From within the institution itself, I can assure you that the Razorback reflects something that is completely diametrical to what the small percentage of the public perceives. Moving on to the professionalism that is represented within the community, I want to frame this section through the Chancellor Steinman's interview/photo shoot as it portrays professional values that the community praises leading up to, in preparation, and during the interview itself. To begin, preparation is key, especially whenever you have a story that involves interviewing the head of the school on what his plan is for expanding and improving the university. Our writer spent time scouring the internet for information on the Chancellor's new plan in order to properly prepare some appropriate questions for Chancellor Steinmetz. In addition to the pre-interview research our writer conducted, our editor-in-chief, Christina Wilkerson, planned a meeting to go over everything and offer advice on questions to ask, and for me, how to properly frame photos within a confined space, again to reinforce this idea that preparation is key not only to the story of this, but also to professional journalism as well. During the interview, the conversation shifted from this to that, with Chancellor Steinmetz being completely willing to thoughtfully answer all questions, and our interviewer composing herself in such a way as to communicate the regard to which she held the interview. Finally, following the interview, I promptly made my way over to the newsroom to edit and upload the pictures that I had taken during the session throughout the normal established process that the photography team has adhered to since the digital equipment had become available to the group, showing respect for the process that had become a pillar of professionalism within the community. Whether you believe that the individuals at the Razorback promote professionalism or harbor gossip, you cannot simply deny the fact that hard work is performed by its employees every day, working to compose the next edition of the book that will grace your coffee table and, if it's lucky enough, your shelf for years to come.